guys, here come the dollies. They got fresh sinkers, hot coffee, and the sweetest smile.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Clubmobile.
Hey everybody, welcome back.
We have a really fun one for you guys today. I've been really excited to talk about this woman.
We've been shuffling her around, trying to find the right spot for her. I'm excited. This is a important one. I mean, everything's important when you get down to it, but
I would say she's one of the most well-known women of wartime.
Yeah.
She was in the French Resistance. She hid anecdotes in her underwear. There's a clue of who we're talking about. She really did help win the war in quite a big way. And if you haven't guessed who we're talking about, we're going to be talking about Josephine Baker today. Very exciting.
I think every man that listens to this podcast might have gotten a little excited at the whole underwear comment, but men will be men.
Surprisingly, that is why she did what she did. It was all from men that she got these anecdotes, and she would write them in invisible ink and then attach these papers to her undergarments.
Girl was ahead of her time, let me tell you.
And she would retrieve them. She'd go to a lavatory and retrieve them and then hand them over to whoever she was handing them over to.
She was ahead of her time. Let me tell you, that's good stuff.
Absolutely.
That's good stuff.
So she was born in St. Louis, Missouri. She was born Frida Josephine Baker. So she dropped the Frida and she went with Josephine around the time of her first motion picture. And that's in 1927. It's a silent film called Siren of the Tropics. And she's the first Black woman to star in such a major picture. So she's one of the first of her time. She was an actress, a singer, and a dancer, and everyone thought that she was drop dead gorgeous because
she was.
Absolutely, she was.
She was. I was thrown at first because you were like, let's talk about Josephine Baker from the French Resistance.
Yeah.
And then we started researching her, and I said, she's American.
Yeah.
I was like,
a lot of people don't know that.
She's American. She was a silent film star. She was born here in the States, but she was probably one of the most influential members of the French Resistance.
Yeah, and one of the most influential women in Europe at the time.
Yeah.
So the reason she ended up there was because she married a French national. He was a French industrialist. His name was Jean Léon, and this happened in 1937. The reason she became a French national was because at the time, women could not hold dual citizenship. So she had to renounce her US citizenship in order to be married to her new husband.
Okay.
That's how she became a French citizen's national.
It wasn't a case of the way Marlene Dietrich renounced her German citizenship because...
Yes, and stayed here.
And stayed here. She genuinely just married a French man.
Yeah. She didn't want to turn her back on her country of birth. She did not want to renounce her citizenship, but in order to be married to her new husband, she had to do so. And because his career was so established in France, she wasn't going to work. She didn't want to be separated from him, and he did not want to move to the US.
I don't think you could classify it as turning your back on your country.
Yes, but of course
some people would see it that way, but I would definitely say she didn't turn her back on her country. She
did what she had to do.
She did what she had to do for her husband.
Sort of like me in a way. I didn't turn my back on my country of origin, but I'm quite happy to stay here. So it's quite similar.
One could say you still haven't because,
I still haven't. I am
still haven't.
However.
It's okay.
I still have not.
We accept you. We accept you as our own over here, Winnie.
Thank you. That's so nice of you because I quite like it. She and her husband could not have children of their own, so they adopted 12 children. They adopted a whole litter of children, and she called them her rainbow tribe.
That's a sweet term for them.
Very, very sweet.
12 is a number.
12 is entirely
12 is a number, and for all of you people who are old souls like me, I think 8 is enough. There used to be a TV show way back in the day called 8 is Enough.
Oh.
So for all the old souls that listen to us, I think 8 is enough. I'm kidding. Actually, I think 1 or 2 is enough. 8 is enough.
8 is enough.
But really for me, 1 or 2 would be enough. But 12 is, God bless that they adopted 12 children. She saw 12 children that needed a home. Good for her.
Yep. From what I remember, it genuinely was that she didn't pick them up from like an orphanage. I believe that these were just children that she were living on the street by themselves.
Even more
and
admirable, honestly.
She took them in. So she began to aid the French resistance in World War II and worked with the British Secret Intelligence Service and also worked with the United States Office of Strategic Services. Now, this work was not known until 2020 when the French documents were declassified. So the extent of her resistance and spy work was not known until 6 years ago.
So she was part of the OSS, which was what Propaganda Girls was focused on. So Marlene Dietrich was also part of the OSS.
Yeah. It seemed that they got popular at the time women to work for them.
Yeah.
And to promote the war effort. So again, even though she is no longer a US citizen, technically, she is still working for the OSS.
Right.
They recruited her. So again, she didn't turn her back on her country. They actively sought
her out. Yeah. I find it very interesting that her and Marlena, who are both two very prominent stars in their own, I'd say in their own right, Josephine Baker was very popular among Black soldiers, as was Lena Horne.
Yep.
And Marlena was, I always go back to Band of Brothers where Wild Bill is in the Ardennes. Marlena, is that you?
Marlena, is that you?
But they were both very popular, and it's almost like they did it on purpose, the US, because nobody would suspect that these Hollywood starlets were part of the OSS. There's Marlene Dietrich on the USO tour with Bob Hope. There she is, right?
There she is.
On the USO tour with Bob Hope, slinging through the mud. Nobody suspects she's part of the OSS.
Nope. And I don't think anyone suspected that
Josephine Baker was either, which was, I think, by design of the United States, which is actually brilliant. Actually brilliant.
Agreed. After the war, she was awarded the Resistance Medal by the French Committee of National Liberation, the Croix de Guerre by the French military, and was named a Chevalier of the Legion of Honor by Charles de Gaulle. She was described as saying she had 2 loves, my country and Paris. And after the war, she refused to perform for segregated audiences in the US and was noted for her contributions to the civil rights movement. In 2021, she was inducted into the Pantheon in France, the first Black woman to receive one of the highest honors of the country. And a cenotaph of remembrance was placed there in her honor. So you can imagine the kind of work she did.
Oh, absolutely. The impact that she had.
In order to receive that. Yeah, in order to receive these honors directly after the war and years after her death. So I'd like to go back to the beginning a little bit. How did she get to France? How did she become an actress? That kind of thing. So she had her first audition at the age of 13, and she auditioned for the St. Louis Vaudeville Act. And after that, she headed to New York City. Of course.
If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere.
Anywhere. It is up to you. It is.
Okay, Sinatra.
I love him. Her first roles were mostly chorus line relegations at a club called the Plantation Club. But she kind of got her big break in 1921 where she toured with a Broadway revue, and it was called Shuffle Along.
It's cute.
Very, very cute. I love that they called them revues back then.
Yeah. Now what do they call them? Cute. What do they call them now? Just a traveling, an act, a tour, national tour, whatever.
Yeah, they don't really have them anymore. If you have a national tour, you've had a great run on Broadway or on the West End, and that's why. They don't just stick anything in anymore.
No, they don't. They really don't.
Which is where I think it's kind of lost its pizzazz. A review was great because it was something no one had ever seen or heard of before, and they were just sticking themselves in any which state, literally.
I do think that Broadway has lost its pizzazz a little bit.
Oh, it lost its pizzazz when ticket prices went up.
Ticket prices went up. The fact of the matter is New York is kind of losing its pizzazz, unfortunately, and theater etiquette is going out the window.
Oh my God.
I could go on and on about this. Unfortunately. We could be here for hours.
We could be here for hours. She then sailed to Paris in 1925 because she had created her own revue and she took it on a European tour.
Look at her
I'm,
go.
I'm not exactly sure when she met her husband. Obviously, it's around the time she goes to Paris because she's married soon after. She becomes an instant success in Paris, and it's thanks to her erotic dancing, because of course. And she's the most popular American entertainer in France.
And this is so pre-war that
Yeah, this is way before.
so pre-war.
No one really cared that she
Nobody
wasn't
cared that she was
white.
black. Nobody cared. That was the thing in Europe, right?
Yeah, no one
Back
cared.
then.
No one gave a shit.
Nobody cared if you were black or white.
Yeah,
You could be orange. You could
could be
be
anything.
the color pink. Nobody gave a crap what color you
No one
were.
gave a crap.
They cared if you were a decent person. They
Yeah.
judged you on your character, not on your color.
Yeah,
Once again, I could go on for hours about that.
exactly. I found a possible connection between Josephine Baker and Lee Miller. They had the same acquaintances and they had the same
Oh,
friends. Ernest Hemingway called Josephine Baker the most sensational woman anyone ever saw. Picasso was quite taken by her. He quoted alluring beauty. And Lee Miller and Josephine Baker were living in Paris at the same time, and Hemingway and Picasso were also friends of Lee Miller's. So
that's
it's
very
very possible,
interesting. That's very interesting.
isn't it? It's very
But then
possible
again,
that
when you
they,
get down into the deep nitty-gritty of who Lee Miller knew, she was a model. Before she was Lee Miller, the wartime photographer for Vogue, she was a
yeah,
model. People forget that.
yeah,
I think people
they
tend to
forget that.
forget that Lee Miller was a model. So it makes sense that she ran in a similar circle to Josephine Baker.
Yeah, it didn't surprise me,
It's
but I
not
thought it was
surprising
a
at
really
all.
cool,
Yeah,
it
no,
was a
that's a
really
very fun
cool,
fact.
yeah, for sure. So between the time of her review touring in Europe and the war starting, she would go between Paris and New York City, and she opened her second cabaret on Broadway. So she's going between the two.
And that's a hefty trip back then because you're not flying, you're taking
You're not
a
flying, you're
boat.
taking the boat.
The boat's taking probably a week and a half at most.
Especially drawing closer to America entering the war as well.
Yeah,
Things are becoming less available.
yes. You're hitting that era of the Depression where if
Yeah,
you are genuinely not financially sound, you're that's it. You're bound for
yeah.
struggle.
And then I began to think of how much was she making from creating these shows and touring them all over the world.
Mm.
She must have been making bank
But then
to
you
be
have to
able to go
figure,
between.
but then you have to figure the Depression is rolling in, right?
Yeah.
29. This is
Yeah.
29-ish. So the
Yeah.
Depression, the crash 29, the Depression's rolling in. How many people now are going to be attending these reviews? At least
That's
in
very
America.
true.
At least in America. I don't know
Yeah,
how it was
in
in
Europe.
Paris, but
Yeah.
at least in New York, you're kind of now at that point where, yes, you've opened it. The crash is coming. They
It's
don't
like
know it.
teetering. Yeah.
We know it now. But
Yeah.
yeah, the crash is coming and there's going to be devastation.
Yeah. So initially there was no racial discrimination, but it was racism that spurred Josephine to participate in the French resistance as the war began.
Mm.
She began to suffer severe hostility in Germany and Eastern Europe and was told to go back to Africa and was targeted with ammonia bombs because she was
Wow.
black.
Racism in Germany ahead of World War II. I'm shocked.
Who'd have thought?
Who would have thought?
But the tide begins to change. And of course, she's in a position where Europe has declared war before her home country. So she's been at war since 39, obviously. So when France declared war on Germany in response to the Poland invasion, Josephine Baker was recruited by the Deuxième Bureau, a French military intelligence agency, as an honorable correspondent. They seem to have given her a fake job title so she could be in rooms with certain people
Did
based
that
on her
with a lot of
accolades.
women. Just
Yeah.
a fake title, fake job.
Fake title because she's Josephine Baker and she's easily recognized. She's not going to give it away.
Right.
So she begins socializing with Germans at embassies and ministries and nightclubs, and she's charming them in order to gather information. So this is when her spy work begins around 39. And because these men and dignitaries knew her from her Broadway shows and her reviews and cabarets, it sparked a conversation between her and the man in question.
Right.
She, I guess, charmed them, and they would give up anything she asked, hence the notes in the underwear, because she would then say, okay, thank you. Or she'd say, okay, I need to go powder my nose. And off she would go,
Right.
and she'd scribble it and she'd pin it to herself.
Unbelievable.
So she put herself in a very, very good position
It really
with
goes to
how
show
famous
back
she
in the
was.
day that the men would never suspect a woman in that position, in that stature.
And because she was so well known and so famous across both countries, no one ever suspected that she was there
Yeah.
to soften them up.
And it's a different type of instance, right, with the spy work versus Marlene Dietrich, because Marlene Dietrich publicly renounced her German citizenship.
Yeah,
She made it very clear, I'm out. Whereas Josephine's renouncement of her citizenship of America was just a quiet,
I have to.
I have to, it's quiet, and nobody really knows, and no German is going to suspect that a woman who renounced her American citizenship because she married a French man, they're assuming, maybe in their pea brain Nazi heads, are assuming that she renounced her American citizenship. She
might be on our side.
She might be playing for our side. She might be, but no.
And
so they were probably more likely to give up any information to her, whereas you couldn't really put Marlene Dietrich in that situation because she was like public enemy number one to Hitler. He wanted her.
Mm-hmm. She very well could have been leading the conversation with something like that. She could have been fibbing. She could have been telling a little porky pie to get the information out of them.
She could have very easily even been talking to them and saying, can you believe what Marlene Dietrich did?
Yeah, she could have been dropping people in it.
She could have been dropping people in it just to get what she needed.
To get the information that she wanted and needed. It wasn't just Germans at embassies. It was high-ranking Japanese officers and Italian bureaucrats also. Because of her fame, she was able to attend parties at the Italian embassy without raising suspicion.
That's incredible.
How famous she was and how well revered she was. It's like, oh my goodness, Josephine Baker's here. And I think it also goes to show that, not that social media's destroyed everything, but it's only the newspaper you're getting news from, or the radio in this era.
Yeah.
And everyone knows who she is.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that, oh my goodness, Josephine Baker's here.
Yeah. News is traveling by word of mouth, newspapers, and the radio. And it's not even instant with the newspapers these days. Like, it's quick back then, but it's not the way it is now where, the newspaper is giving you everything that happened at 2:00 in the morning by 7 a.m.
Right. Exactly. So she would write notes on her hands, and she would write notes on paper and use the invisible ink and would pin them to her underwear. She would then share it directly with MI6 in London. So she was take all this information
up there.
And she would like scramble it in any which way she could.
Yeah. And
then I believe the way to reveal invisible ink in this era was urine. So she had to go about things that way to remember what it was, and she would then feed that information to MI6 directly. Just to be clear,
I don't think she was peeing directly on the paper.
Peeing on them, but she would
I'm sure there were droplets involved, guys, and some kind of sanitary nature here where she would then translate it and hand it over to somebody. I don't think she was giving MI6 her pee-soaked paper, guys.
I mean, I don't think she was even giving them that. I believe she was contacting them via radio.
Yeah, probably like that. Probably in code, and probably somebody at MI6 unscrambling the code. Definitely.
Yes. So there's lots of moving parts to this. When MI6 had to go underground, she would do the same thing, but she would send it via an American diplomat who was working in London, and then they would send it to MI6. She left Paris in 1940 after the Germans invaded France, and she went to her home in the Dordogne. This was her hideaway. And this is the part of the story that I found incredibly cool. At this chateau, she would shelter resistance fighters and Jewish refugees, and she would, out of her own pocket, would provide them with documents, money, and food, anything that they needed to hide or to get back on their feet. She gave them forged papers, forged identities, all out of her own pocket. Her estate was the center of the French resistance during this time. She installed a radio transmitter in order to stay in touch with the Allied forces, and she stored weapons in the cellar.
That's incredible.
She went full, she used all her money and her
and went
wealth
full resistance fighter.
She went, yeah, and no one knew. No one knew till 6 years ago the extent of the work she did for the war. Isn't it crazy? The fact that these documents were classified for so long is one thing. While she is sheltering all of these people, she is still touring around Europe. She is still visiting embassies and meeting with dignitaries and important people. And she's
but
doing
then it keeps up the guise that nobody would suspect her.
The charade.
Nobody would suspect it.
She's doing it under the guise of coming to entertain them.
Mm.
So people are saying, Josephine Baker's coming to sing for us. And then after the performance, she would mingle with all of these very important men who would, because she's a beautiful woman, they would just let shit slip. And she would say, oh.
Really?
No way. And then she'd go to the toilet and she would scribble things down and
in her invisible ink and tuck it into her undies.
As she should.
Uh-huh.
Love that for her. Late in 1941, her entourage goes to the French colonies of North Africa. I believe the chateau was raided. I'm not 100%. I would like to be corrected on that. But that would be the only reason why I would think that she and her resistance entourage would go to North Africa.
Correct.
She wanted to continue helping the resistance. That was the real reason why. But the stated reason was that she had a second bout of pneumonia and wanted to recover somewhere warm so she would not be cold, so her lungs could recover. And from here, she toured Spain under the same entertainment guise. So she would again be, even though she was sick, she was still aiding the resistance and she was still sending information back to MI6 and the OSS. She underwent a hysterectomy in Marrakesh around this time too. She had a miscarriage. And this was the last of multiple miscarriages, hence the 12 children she adopted. She could not have her own children.
Now, at the time, obviously her husband is traveling with her.
And again.
Never mentioned again, huh?
It said she marries him, becomes a French national along with him.
Right.
Zip.
Really?
Really.
Usually you find that when you're looking somebody up, it's the wife who's never mentioned again.
I think because she was so important and so well known and so well renowned that they're like, this means nothing. She got to France because of him. That's all we need to know.
All we need to know is what kind of job he had, right? Like,
It said that he was an industrialist. It said, so I'm assuming he owned many factories. And I'm assuming that they were quite well off because of this.
Right.
I'm assuming the job, because it said industrialist. I'm thinking around the time of they getting married, I'm assuming that means he owns factories. And therefore he's...
And then who knows what happens with those factories once Germany invades France? Do they take possession? Exactly.
Yeah.
So...
Never mentioned again.
Never mentioned again.
Would love to know, actually, because I didn't think... I was too busy writing about Josephine Baker to think of her husband. Oops. I'm assuming they're traveling together because she's having a miscarriage, but I don't know their marriage. I don't know if it was like an open situation. She was a woman of a different type. She was a very modern woman, so it could have been that they were married.
It was a different time.
And she might have been with someone that who was in her entourage. It could have been, and
could have been anything. Genuinely could have been anything. Yeah.
Could have been anything. Post-surgery and in recovery from that hysterectomy, she's entertaining troops in North Africa. So she's also doing a bit of Marlene's work, but she's doing it in North Africa as opposed to Europe.
Right.
The French had no organized entertainment for their troops, so Josephine Baker made sure that they had some. The entourage was in charge of corralling the audience, and she had them make sure that no civilians attended and that they didn't charge admission. So because French soldiers did not have something like the USO or anything like that, she thought that these men deserved entertainment like their American counterparts. And because she was fluent in French, it made sense
Yeah.
for her to do such a thing. And they loved her because she was so famous. I'm sure they were falling over themselves. After the war, she returned to Paris. I'm assuming returns to her husband. I don't know. Till she moved back to New York. She was named NAACP's Woman of the Year, and a parade was given for her in Harlem, which I think is so precious.
I love
They
that.
gave her a whole parade, which is really sweet. I didn't put in her work with the NAACP or the civil rights movement because I wanted to keep it about her work in World War II.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go too far before or us to go too far after because there's so much more.
Yeah.
We'd have got lost in the source. We would have put so much information in front of people, like just chucking it. I don't think they would have minded, however. But still.
In her later life, she converts to Catholicism in 1968, but she loses the French chateau due to unpaid debts. And her friend, her close personal friend, Grace Kelly,
personal friend,
Princess Grace of Monaco. At this point, she's Princess Grace of Monaco, but Grace Kelly offers her an apartment on her Monaco estate where she lived with her husband.
I'm assuming
that means where Josephine lived with her husband, not where Princess Grace lived with her husband, because I don't think Princess Grace lived in the apartment. No. Assuming Josephine was still with her husband in 1968.
Yeah, which means that I'm assuming that Josephine's husband stayed behind in Paris and was looking after his businesses and said, you go win the war, I'm here.
Right.
Do whatever you want.
Maybe he had to stay close to his businesses because they were under German occupation at the time.
I would like to know more. I'm quite intrigued now.
Stay tuned, guys.
Yeah, we're going to find out. To celebrate 50 years in show business, Josephine put on a final show in 1975. She was found in bed in a coma 4 days later. She passed away due to a cerebral hemorrhage.
Oh my God.
I know, isn't that so sad? She lived this wonderful full life.
And she died alone.
She died in bed. I like to think of it in a way that she was resting from that final performance and she probably said, okay, I'm done now. I'm out of here. She received a full Catholic burial and 20,000 mourners were present at her funeral. And she is the only American-born woman to receive full French military honors.
Now that's something.
That is something.
That is something.
Absolutely it is. For her to be told that she's turning her back on her country and then to still fight for them alongside with the country that's adopted her. I would say that her work and her entourage's work shaved off a good few months of the war.
Yeah.
She put herself in incredibly precarious positions, of which she could because she was famous enough to do so. But if she'd have been found out as a woman, as a Black woman.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
Goodness.
But she wasn't found out because everyone loved her. And
nobody would suspect her.
They would not suspect that.
It's almost like
Josephine Baker was.
Renouncing her citizenship was the key to everything.
Yeah, it seemed to be so.
Even though it wasn't, like we said before, even though it wasn't a malicious intent in renouncing it, it was the key to getting her where she had to be. She might not have realized it at the time, but it was it was everything.
In order for her to put in work for the war effort that she was so strongly opposed to, she had to give up her US citizenship. And she had to, I think anything, it worked out very, very well for her. Yeah. Because she was still working with the US. She was with the OSS. And she was also working with the British.
Right, with the French resistance.
And she was with MI6 as well. So she was working underground for 3 separate entities of spy work.
And still entertaining.
And then after that, after giving it her all, entertaining these people who are probably horrific men, she's still taking the time to mingle with them and get every secret she can out of them. And I find it so funny that they gave it up so easily. And she was
I find it funny, but like, I'm not surprised.
Yeah,
I'm not
it's true.
surprised that
Like,
these men gave it up to her so easily.
Yeah. Of
Because
course they did.
they lived in this bubble, men of the time,
Mm,
where a woman, there's no way a woman could be capable of XYZ,
XYZ. Yeah,
right? There's
exactly.
no way.
Yeah.
They doubted
I like,
women every turn.
yeah.
And every single time, these women stood up and said, really? Absolutely the fuck
Mm,
not.
I don't think so.
I
I like
don't
to
think so.
I like to think that she received all this information, ran to a
Powder her
secret
nose,
hideaway,
right?
and rubbed her hands together like a pleased fly. Like writes it down and tucks it in her pants. And she's probably walked out of the bathroom like, oh, excuse me, I had to powder my nose, and her underwear's full of war secrets. She's like rustling on the way home, but she's like, got him,
It's
got
like
their
from
asses.
oh, what is it? Mean Girls, where she says they say that's why her hair is so big, it's full of
It's full
secrets.
of secrets. That's why her skirts were so big. They literally were full of war secrets.
Yeah. Underwear full of bloomers full of war secrets.
And I love that for her.
That's incredible.
I really love doing this one. Even though she's one of the more well-known women of the time, it was still really fun to dig into her a little bit.
She's one of the more well-known women, but now I want to place my bet on how many people are going to say, I didn't know she was part of the French Resistance. I didn't know she worked with MI6 or the
No,
OSS.
neither did I.
I didn't know
Yeah.
she knew Lee Miller.
A lot of people are going
You
to be
watch.
surprised, I
A
think.
lot of people are going to be surprised.
Yeah.
You watch.
No, this was fun. This was super
This was
fun.
fun. I
Yeah.
always love going back to these types of women.
Yeah, me too.
Not to say I don't love talking about the WASP or the WAC or these larger groups,
Of
but I
course.
like when we can kind of single in or single out one particular person who did a
Yeah.
whole host of things on her own. It
Yeah,
was like,
absolutely.
I'm going to do this, this, and this. And then guess what? I'm going to put on a fancy dress and go sing for people.
And then I'm going to get information that's going to win the war. No big deal.
No big deal.
No big deal. But I love her. I think she's excellent. And I think that she lived an insane life.
Absolutely, she did. Based on the
Yeah.
time and the era, and she lived through the silent movie era, the Depression. She traveled back and forth from Paris to New York during the Depression. She lived in France during German occupation. She survived World War II. I mean, yes, she died in 75, and I still think that's quite a bit, maybe too young, but
Right.
at
I
the
think so
same
too.
time, when you what
If
do
you've
they
lived a
say? It's
life
not
like
the
that.
number of years in your life, but the number of life in your years.
Yeah. And she lived many,
She
many a life.
lived many, many a life in those years.
Yeah,
So
for sure. But no,
I
this was
enjoyed this
great.
one.
I realized one.
I had
Yeah,
a
me
great
too.
time. I hope that everybody listening enjoyed it.
And if we got anything wrong, I know I say this all the time when it's just you and I, but if we got anything wrong, don't be afraid to correct us.
Or if you know
We're not
something that we
gonna,
didn't, or if you know something that we didn't include,
yes, even
let us
better,
know. Let us
even
know.
better. Yeah, please do. We hope everyone enjoyed this one as much as we did, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah. See you guys soon.
Bye.
Bye.